Hello designers, welcome to another tutorial where I'll be showing you how to make these beautiful pants with a slit. Yeah, very fitted. And like I said, if you haven't watched our pattern drafting for trouser, do rush and go and watch it. But yeah, let's get started. So it's exactly the same thing I did on our pattern. I'm just redoing another one just for the purpose of this video. Okay, so I went ahead to create a base of 2.5 by 2.5. It's just the same thing on the previous trouser, updated trouser pattern. It works. So far your measurements are correct, your crotch will be perfect. Okay, your crotch will be perfect. So you can still refer back to that video, though I didn't do any sewing after drafting that pattern. So this is more like a pattern with sewing. Okay, so let's continue. And if you know you haven't subscribed to my channel, please, what are you waiting for? Please kindly subscribe to this channel. And for those who are yet to register for my overboss corset class, I'll be waiting for you to join. Okay, let's focus on this. So I'll be working with my hip, my crotch length, my hip length, and every other measurement you need for your trouser. So I went ahead to mark my hip length and then my crotch length. Now I said in the previous video that you sit on a flat surface to get your real crotch length. Okay, so you're sitting on the flat surface to get your crotch length, and then you're measuring from where your trouser is going to be starting from to your hip. That's the perfect point. Then I'll go ahead and divide my hip divided by 4. I got 9.8. My hip is 39.5, and then I'll be doing the same thing on my crotch length. Okay, then I'll also put that same measurement on my waist line. Then I'll go ahead and connect it. Now the purpose of this video is just to recap the trouser pattern I did previously and then show you how to do this slitted trouser. Now for my front crotch is my hip divided by 20. Don't forget, so I got 1.95, and then on the hip line I'll be going out by 0.25 just to get my curve for my crotch curve. Don't forget that your front crotch is your hip divided by 20. Okay, so when I'm done, I'll go in by half an inch on the waistline just because we don't want that excess around our tummy area. Okay, so it's optional. You can still walk even if you do that, especially if you're doing a fly zipper, you can still leave it all the way. So after that, I went ahead to put down my waist measurement and then connect to my hip and then connect my waist back to the center front. Now remember that at the side of our waist I came up by half an inch. Then I'll go to my crotch, divide by 2, measure the trouser length I'll be working with. Now I would like to say that for your trouser length, you know that this pattern comes with its band. After taking out your band from this pattern, now what we have here, you can go ahead and mark your trouser length, or after marking your trouser length, make your trouser length plus the inches of band you are going to be working with. So if you're working with a 2-inch band that you'll be cutting off from the pattern, replace it to the trouser length. So after getting my midpoint, I went ahead to just draw a line. Now I really need this midpoint because of the design of this trouser. Okay, then I went ahead to mark my knee length. So whatever your knee length is, just mark it down. All right, so now after doing this is what you should have. Remember that the front of your waist, you came up by half an inch. Now I went ahead to divide my knee by 4 and then placed the measurement and then used a curve roller on the center front of this trouser just to have a nice curve. Now this is an A-line pant, so after doing this I had to like redraw it. It's not really A-line, but it's meant to be a loose pant on the leg area, more like a boot cut or an A-line. So I went ahead to mark, I used a total of 12 inch. So I went ahead to connect from the crotch I opened up from the crotch area, and freed it all the way down, connecting it back to our initial line, our initial baseline for this trouser. Then whatever I have on my hem part of this trouser, I will just go ahead and replicate it at the other side of this trouser and connect a straight line all the way down. Let me know if you're following, and like I said, there's a more detailed video in this page, so you can go and check this updated trouser pattern. Okay, so now to the back of my crotch, I'll be marking in 1 inch on the hip line and 2 inch on the waistline. Now from our original waistline, that is where I marked my 2 inch, and from the hip line that we had on the crotch is where I'm marking my 1 inch. Then on the waist, I will go up by 1.5 inch or 2 inches, depending on how big of a butt the client you're working with has. Now this is our new back, our back of the trouser. Then on the side of the waist, I will be going up by 0.5 inch, exactly what we did for the front of this trouser. Then connecting. Now this is a 2-in-1 pattern. Now at the end of this pattern, I'm going to be tracing out the front and working with this one for the main back. Okay, now for my back crotch is going to be my hip divided by 10. My back crotch is my hip divided by 10. Okay, so you recall that our front crotch was our hip divided by 20. So for the back, it is your hip divided by 10. Now, you don't need to extend the curve all the way outside the box, okay? You can just use your curve to get that curve and then use a straight ruler to connect it back. Now, when I'm done, I will go ahead and mark my new hip. Starting from this new hip line that we have here, I will go ahead and mark my new hip. I hope you're following. Please, I hope you're following. And then whatever I have on this new hip line on the crotch is what I'll place on my real hip for the back. On this hip line, the line we connected, okay, we came in by 1 inch from that front hip line. I will be doing this. I'll be marking my hip divided by 4 and then connecting all the way to my original hip, then to my waist. Then on my knee line, I am just going to be putting 0.5 inch all the way around from the hip line to the hem line. You're just going to be connecting your 0.5 inch all the way up. Now the secret to this pattern is that it works. Like your crouch will sit well, everything will balance. Yes, I've had a designer come and give her testimony when she tried the previous one I posted. It's the same pattern I'm using. Okay, I'm just doing another one, more like a recap because of the style of trouser I'm making. Okay, so yeah, this is what your pattern should look like after drafting. I hope we are following. I hope this video is detailed enough. Okay, so now I went ahead to trace out the front of this pattern. Now fortunately I lost that video, but this paper is already traced out, but since it's a white paper you wouldn't see, but it's because it's traced out, that is why I'm able to draw out this line. So I traced out the front and I'll be using the main pattern for the back. So that means I'll be cutting the main pattern to fit for the back. And now this is what the front trouser will look like. I went ahead to mark my band. I worked with a band of 1.5 inch. Remember I said that whatever length you choose for your band, add it back to your trouser. Okay, then I went ahead to cut the pattern for my back. So when I was done cutting the pattern for my back, I still went ahead to mark out my 1.5 inch for my band. Okay, like so. Went ahead to mark 1.5 inch for my band, then replaced my new band. So this band is going to be cut out of this trouser. We're not going to be working with this trouser with the band. The band is going to be cut out on its own, except you're doing a bandless trouser, then you can work with it like this, but we're actually creating a band. Okay, so this is what the front looks like. Okay, now you see the midpoint line. I went ahead to divide it into two. Yes, that is how we're going to get that design in front. Now you can do it only on one side, the one with the slit, or you can do it on both sides. Like me, I decided to do it on both sides. I was inspired by this design from my client. Now I added 2.2 inches on the side. It depends on how big you want your, should I say, button cover to be. Okay, it depends on how big you want it to be. You can use 1.5, you can use 2 inches, you can use 2.2. So I just went ahead to mark 2.2 inches and then mark my trouser pocket, and then 1 inch at the side. That's for one side. And then the other side, I went ahead to mark 0.75 inches. 0.75 inches. While on the main trouser, that is the center front of this trouser, I went ahead to put my half inch all around. Now you can use 0.5 inch, you can use 0.75 inch, just whatever is convenient. But just note that one side will be smaller while one side will be bigger, because the other side is the cover. It's more like your shirt button corner where that comes on top. Okay, that is just the whole inspiration behind this thing. Okay, so one side is smaller, the other side is 2 inches, this other side can be 0.5 inches. And then don't forget to notch so that you can follow this line and iron all the way down. Okay, so this is what it looks like. So when I was done, I went ahead to cut out my band, and then after cutting out my band, I went ahead to cut the back of my trouser, because of course the back of this trouser isn't left out. Yes, so at this point I actually wanted to stop the video and like, okay, you know what to do and all that, but I said, okay, let me just follow through the process and do it to the end for those that may not know what to do. So I went ahead to mark out half an inch on the inside part of my trouser, and then 1 inch at the side of my trouser, half an inch on the center part of my trouser, and then 1 inch on the side. So that's how we work. So I usually use 1 inch allowance for sewing, and then half an inch for the inside areas of the stitch. Now for this band, I'll be taping it together. I had to turn the other side because that's the only way the two sides of this band will meet. So I went ahead to tape it together. Now it looks curved, right? Yes, it looks curved, but it still fits like a glove on my waist. So far your measurement is correct, this pattern will do you it will do you good, trust me. Okay, so I went ahead to mark, and then I placed half inch on the upper part and half inch on the lower part. And I would advise that you notch the center front of your band so that you don't mix it up. Then I went ahead to iron out the trousers, the front of my trouser. Remember our 2 inch and our 0.75 inches. I went ahead to fold it like this and iron. For the 0.75 inches, you're just folding it once and ironing. For the 2 inches, you're going to fold it in such a way that it can cover up your trouser. Okay, so now the first thing I went ahead to do was match this 2 inches line. I sewed it all the way down because I want to join it to this other one. So I matched it down, and I also matched the 0.75 down, and then pinned it as a guide because I'm using it to cover up the smaller one. I hope you're following. I'm using it to cover up the smaller one, so I had to pin it all the way down to the point where I was okay, like where I wanted to have my trouser opening. Where you need the slit or where you need the trouser opening, that is where you would stop. So I pinned it all the way down and then sewed and sewed and sewed and sewed, and then I stopped at the point where I needed that opening here, like so. And the next thing I went to do is to fix my trouser pocket. Now for this trouser pockets, please, I have a video on how to make a trouser pocket. Yes, if you don't know. But yeah, there are other methods. I know everybody has what works for them. For me, this is my go-to method, and if you check, the fabric wasn't enough. I used a total of 3.5 yards of fabric for both the shirt and the trouser. The fabric wasn't enough to do the pocket, so I had to improvise by using this Duchess material I had left. It was a leftover fabric. So now you can still watch what I'm doing here and pick one or two, maybe add it to knowledge you already have on how to fix a pocket. Or for a beginner, I have a pocket tutorial in my profile. Just check one of my videos and you will find it. I don't know if I'll be able to link up the video here in the description, but I will check. Now when I was done with my pocket, I went ahead to confirm my waist measurement so I would know how to pin up this pocket. And when I was fine with it, I went ahead to just close up the pocket. Now I didn't close up the side of this pocket because it is going to be sewn and weaved. So I was like, no need. Yes, no need. So I just went ahead to just close only the lower parts. And then when I was done with the pocket, I went ahead to join my trouser. Now the first thing I did was joining the front to front together, and then before joining the side to side, that's the back to the front. Now the reason why I joined the front together is because I'm not putting a fly zipper. I ended up putting my zip at the back of this trouser. So it is your choice. It is for you to choose where you want to put your trouser, okay? For me, I put my trouser at the back, okay? So that was why I sewed the front. Then I went ahead to join our band. Remember that we used half inch up and half inch down. Now one of these half inch will be the upper part that you would close up, and then when you're done stitching the upper part, I went ahead to iron the lower part. I pressed one side by half an inch and then left the other side that has no interfacing open because that's the part that will be facing the fabric. Then I went ahead to pin the middle point first and then pin it all the way to the end of each side, and then used the part. Okay, after pinning it, I went ahead to sew it down. Then now use the part that I ironed in half an inch to press on top. Yes, and voila, your trouser is ready. So at this point, you just go ahead and finish up, put your zip and what have you, and yeah, hem the lower part of your trouser with how many inches you want to hem it with. You can do half an inch, you can do 1 inch, whichever works for you, okay? So I didn't need to even fit this trouser while sewing it because I was sure of all of my measurements. So when I was done and ready to step out, I decided to, rock my outfit. And yeah, this is the finished look. You can see how well fitted this trouser came out. You can see, right? Yeah, the pattern. Yeah, thanks for watching. Let me know if you'll be trying out this pattern. See you on my next video. Bye.